Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. I'm SocietySucks and today I'm checking out how this queen became the biggest drug lord by night shift Kurzgesagt after dark. I'm not completely sure what this video will be about. The only thing that comes to my mind is when the British got the Chinese addicted to opium. But I don't know if the British monarch at the time was actually a woman, so I guess we'll see.
A sigh escapes you as you open the doors, and a smell like honey and flowers creeps up your nostrils.
Okay, so it is
On
the
low
Chinese.
beds, men sprawl amidst cushions, smiling serenely through the haze. A young woman hands you a tray with dim sum, tea, and a pipe, your usual. With the first hit of opium, the edges of your world soften.
Okay, so it's the
and your
Chinese
guilt
being addicted to
evaporates
opium.
in a warm, weightless cloud.
So I guess the
Just
British
today,
monarch at the
foreign
time was
merchants
a woman.
bribed you, smuggling in the very stuff now curling through your lungs. We're in China around 1839, and this year 40,000 chests of opium will flow through the port of Guangzhou,
Jesus!
making the dealers fabulously rich.
40,000!
And you are a willing accomplice to the world's biggest narco kingpin, the British Empire. But how did Queen
Victoria is
become
the drug
head
lord.
of a drug cartel? All the tea in China. It started innocently. By the late 18th century, the British got hopelessly hooked on tea. Within a century, demand for energizing leaf water exploded by 10,000%, with tea taxes funding 10% of the entire treasury. The
Damn!
problem is, the world's only
10%
tea dealer
with
at the
just
time
tea.
is China, which sees itself as the center of civilization and doesn't care for equal partnerships. Their negotiation partner couldn't be more irritated. It's the British East India Company, a huge joint stock company with a state-backed monopoly on trade in the Indian Ocean and a private army twice as big as the British Empire's. For now, they are the ones being squeezed. The Chinese demand silver for tea and don't buy anything themselves, a losing deal that drains the Crown's silver reserves. So, in 1793, London sends ambassadors, hoping fancy words and gifts can nudge Beijing into buying British goods. But the Qianlong Emperor tells them to get lost. Our celestial empire possesses all things in prolific abundance. There is no need to import the manufactures of outside barbarians. Desperately, British officials look for something, anything, they can sell
Get them
to China,
addicted to drugs.
and they identify opium. Poppy economics. If you slice a poppy seed pod, it bleeds a milky goop packed with morphine and codeine, raw opium. For millennia, it's white.
I'll be honest, I didn't even know what opium was. I didn't know it came from poppy seeds. I've heard all the jokes about how poppy seeds are drugs, but I didn't realize that's what opium was.
Widespread in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia as a painkiller. But in the 17th century in southern Chinese ports, people find that it hits different when smoked. It becomes a social event for wealthy merchants and a pricey trading good. Conveniently for the East India Company, when they seize control of Bengal in India, they stumble upon a local opium business just waiting to be scaled. In the late 1700s, they start
Take
forcing
advantage of
farmers
it.
to swap food crops for poppy, fueling famines that kill millions. Like any
Oh.
good cartel, they then launder the business and sell the opium to private merchants in Calcutta who smuggle it into China. Trade runs like butter, and Chinese silver starts running into British money chests so fast that it becomes the empire's financial backbone within a few decades. And in 1833, the floodgates open. The British government ends the East India Company's China monopoly. Ambitious British merchants turn into reckless narco lords with armed smuggling boats who push the drug into a mass market habit. More and more people get high, and many get addicted, although Chinese officials might have overstated numbers to throw shade on this foreign drug.
Okay.
Contrary to later
So
myths,
it's likely not as
most
bad as they
users
said
may
it
have
was.
used it like many Europeans use wine or beer, socially and in moderation. To the Chinese government, it's less a public health than an economic crisis. They're bleeding more silver out through opium and other imports than tea and the like bring in. As recession grips the empire, officials use opium as a scapegoat for fading morals and fortitude and decide to crush the trade. And the stage for this showdown is Guangzhou, the heart of the drug hustle, known to Europeans as Canton.
I don't know much about Chinese history and their interactions with the British, so I'm a bit blind here.
The Untouchable. It's spring 1839 in the buzzing port city, and you're on your way to get high with your merchant pals again. You're sweating as you stroll through the narrow streets that smell of incense, tea, and frying food. But as you reach the den, the doors have been smashed to splinters. Soldiers are dragging the owner away, while others haul out armfuls of confiscated pipes. As a middleman who's been pocketing mountains of British silver, you feel the noose tightening around your neck. The man
Might be time to leave.
rolled into town only a week ago, Lin Zexu, the emperor's hand-picked fixer for the opium crisis, an elite scholar known as clear as the heavens for being incorruptible in a system drowning in bribes.
Everybody
From the
can be
outside,
corrupted.
China's huge army, population and century-old dynasty look like a massive porcelain vase, pristine and imposing. But it's just as delicate if hit hard. A population boom has outpaced food supply and bureaucracy, the economy is in freefall, and rebellions are simmering. But to Lin, China remains civilization's eternal center, self-sufficient and morally superior. And in that view, a merchant like you getting rich off bribes from barbarians is the absolute worst. You see Lin's decree pinned to every wall. Ditch the habit in about a year, or prepare for the executioner. And you hear whispers of what Lin said when the biggest Chinese opium trader, one of the richest men in the world, tried to bribe him with a fortune. The great minister does not want your money. I want your head. And Lin isn't
What's stopping anyone from eventually taking his head?
stopping here. He turns
If you truly cannot bribe somebody, there's always another option, which is death.
to the source of the opium flood, the foreign traders. They live on a narrow strip outside Guangzhou's walls known as the factories, a mix of offices, warehouses, and living quarters they leased from China, and the only place in the empire where foreigners can legally live and trade, designed to keep them under control. The British operation is overseen by Superintendent Charles Elliot, a dutiful servant to the crown. He personally finds the opium smuggling a bit distasteful, but gets its economic necessity and lacks the legal authority to stop it anyway. Lin sends them an ultimatum: surrender all your opium and pledge never to trade it again, or
Who
else.
cares if it's legal or
His
moral?
soldiers
If you can
break up
exploit the
doors,
Chinese,
march
do
through the
it!
streets and cut off food supplies. This escalated quickly, and with messages between China and London taking months, Elliot panics and makes a fateful decision. He orders the traders to hand over all 20,283 opium chests.
That's
promising
not gonna
that the
go
Crown
over well.
will pay them back. They can hardly believe their luck. In one stroke, their entire stock is sold. She might not know it yet,
Yeah.
but this makes Queen Victoria the biggest
Sold.
drug lord on the planet. Elliot doesn't realize the world-altering debt he just created for her. The opium is worth 4% of the entire British state budget. Today, that share would be about £55 billion, close to the UK's defence budget.
Jesus
Lin,
Christ!
meanwhile, is riding high. He alone stopped the crisis and seized the opium. Chest after chest is hauled to huge trenches by the river, dumped into brine mixed with lime, and flushed out to the sea. The bill, please. By August 1839, the news reaches London and buries the foreign minister's desk under a mountain of letters from merchants, all asking for the Queen to pay their IOUs. The most powerful merchants launch a lobbying campaign, arguing that China's market is a gold mine locked behind an annoying bureaucracy just waiting for liberation. In October, the cabinet decides to send warships to force the Chinese to pay, seize ports, and crack the country open like an oyster for British commerce. This
I'm guessing
causes
it
a
didn't
moral
work.
backlash across Britain, but the fleet is already off to declare war on 1/3 of the world's population. Steel ships meet sabers. In June 1840, fishing boats off Hong Kong start spotting strange shapes on the horizon that slowly grow into 22 warships and dozens of transports carrying about 4,000 British and Indian troops. Lin Zexu isn't impressed. He's dismissed reports of an incoming fleet and tells the emperor it's just a bunch of smugglers. Charles Elliot knows better. Forced out of Guangzhou months ago, he's been fighting desperate naval skirmishes for food and water along the coast, hoping for reinforcement. He teams up with the admiral.
He has those reinforcements now.
Guangzhou and sails the main force north. In July, they reach the archipelago of Jushan and start bombarding the main island. Its army falls in just 9 minutes, and nearly
9 minutes?
Its army falls in just 9 minutes, and nearly 1 million people flee in a panic, while the disgraced local governor drowns himself in a small pool. While China has an army of 800,000, it's scattered across an empire larger than Europe, and the technology gap is huge.
Yeah, when your country is that massive, having a massive army doesn't really matter because it's scattered all over the place, because you need to control every part of the country. So realistically, how much of that army is actually at the coastline? Maybe 100,000 people at most?
Centuries, the Qing had prioritized internal stability while the world outside raced through Industrial Revolution. So now they're still fighting with their great-great-grandfather's weapons. Cannons from the 1500s, rusty old flintlocks, and literally bows and spears.
Oh my god.
Still, the real mismatch is at sea. Britain is a global naval superpower, while the weak Qing Navy has been neglected and years earlier had even struggled to crush local pirates like the armada of pirate queen Zheng Yisao. By August, the British fleet is dangerously close to Beijing. Terrified, the Daguang Emperor fires Lin Zexu, blaming him for the crisis, and opens negotiations with Elliot.
He kind of is the one who's responsible for it.
Back and forth, Elliot's patience snaps. The British deploy the world's first steam-powered iron warship, the Nemesis. Like a tank at a cavalry battle, it vaporizes 11 warjugs in 90 minutes. The horrified Chinese diplomat agrees to hand over Hong Kong and a lot of money on top to make it stop. But neither side is happy with this result. The Chinese negotiator is sentenced to death and Elliot fired for not demanding more. In August 1841,
they could have demanded
a new
more.
commander arrives with reinforcements. They go north again, dismantling the coastal defenses. On July the 21st, 1842, in brutal heat, thousands of British troops step off their ships and, after a short, vicious fight, they break in and enter the city of Zhenjiang and walk into a nightmare. People are cutting each other's throats or drowning themselves in garden pools to escape the barbarians. The war machine pushes on for Nanjing and aims
just
their
makes
cannons
their work
at the heart
easier.
of the ancient capital. On August the 29th, 1842, Chinese officials board a British warship to sign the Treaty of Nanjing. China is forced to pay $6 million silver dollars for the destroyed opium and another $15 million for ransoms, debts, and to repair and refuel the very ships that just slaughtered their people. In total, it's a fiscal shock worth about half of China's annual income.
God damn!
Hong Kong is made a permanent colony and 5 ports are forced open, dismantling China's control of foreign trade.
This is what happens when you mess with the wrong
Opium is
people.
not discussed at all and stays technically illegal because the British Crown wants to avoid looking like a Victorian Pablo Escobar. But actions speak louder than words. The Century of Humiliation.
This is just FAFO. Fuck around, find out. The Chinese fucked around and then they found out.
After Nanjing, opium flooded China like a tsunami, while Western merchants got their tea and profits. In 1856, tensions boiled over into the Second Opium War, ending with more unequal treaties that stripped China's control over trade, law, and land even further. Opium was legalized and smoking spread more than ever. But this is not the story of a bully and a helpless victim. The Qing were rulers of a massive, expansionist empire themselves that took much of Asia by force.
Yeah, they were
including
just as
Tibet,
bad.
Xinjiang, and Taiwan. The Opium Wars were more like two of the most powerful empires on Earth facing off, for which ordinary people paid the price. In 1912, the Qing Empire shattered, ending 2,000 years of dynastic rule and sparking decades of civil war that only concluded with Mao taking power in 1949. By then, both China and the West had their own versions of the story. In the West, opium was recast as an oriental drug that was consumed in seedy places by dangerous criminals. In China, opium became the foreign poison destroying the nation. The Communist Party turned this memory into the opening chapter of the...
This reminds me of that meme. A giant book with Chinese history, and then the tiny one, which is the Chinese history that the Chinese people actually learn about and know.
Century of humiliation, fueling nationalism and presenting its own rise as the answer to that suffering. Stories that still impact global politics today.
I mean, I wouldn't really call Queen Victoria a drug lord. That was obviously just for the title, you know, clickbait. But yeah, like I said earlier, fuck around and find out. The Chinese sure found out. I don't really have much to say here. Personally, I hate drugs, but you see, selling drugs to a different country, poisoning their people while getting rich off of it, I'd say that's okay. As long as you can make profit, it's fine. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. If you want to see more reactions, check out this video right here. And with that, I hope I'll see you in the next video.